Okay, so we've got some updates on Trump's ongoing court cases to try and overturn the results in some of these states and ultimately win the election. I wanted to put this up one more day, but I mean this stuff is moving kind of quick. First of all, we have a lot more witnesses coming forward that have signed sworn affidavits. I mean they're in the tens. I don't know if they're over 100 yet, but I mean they keep rattling these people off, and some of them have gone on TV and sound quite convincing. One woman in particular, who was a contractor for Dominion, which is that company that made the vote tabulation machines that's used in a lot of the country. And the problem is I don't understand the technical details around it. I haven't seen them really outlined anywhere as to what exactly the glitch was that with one of these machines in a county in Michigan that led to 6,000 votes being given to Biden that should have been given to Trump. But a lot of people are harping on that and saying, well, anywhere that there's the Dominion voting machines were used, have to be investigated. And I don't, I'm not to the point yet because I don't understand what the glitch was. So I can't go out on a limb like that and say that these Dominion machines are fraudulent or something like that. I would have to have more information. So it's something that should be looked into, I think. Well, anyway, this woman was not detailing glitches, but she was actually someone who worked for Dominion, who was there as like tech support for the poll workers to try and help them in case they had trouble using the machines. And what she reported is that the poll workers in Detroit were using these machines improperly. Essentially, you run these ballots through the machine in sets of 50. And if one of them can't be read because there's an error in how it was filled out, the machine will spit it, will spit the whole thing out, and you're supposed to take all the ballots out from that stack of 50, and then, remedy the one that didn't read right for whatever reason, or throw it out if you have to, and then run them all through the machine again, but you're supposed to delete the results from them, from the first run through so that you're not counting them twice. And so what this woman alleges is that they were doing that, but they were not invalidating the results from the initial scan of that whole stack. And so a bunch of these ballots were getting scanned twice, 3 times, or even 4 times, I think she said. And so that's a pretty damning accusation. You also have the woman coming forward talking about the Biden van where they were fabricating votes. Again, that's a pretty fantastical claim. Might be true. I mean, she did sign it under oath. I mean, these are under penalty of perjury. It's a pretty big penalty. You have to be kind of crazy to put yourself in that position and lie brazenly just because, I don't know, you like Trump. But still, I mean, until more witnesses come forward, in that case, or we get more evidence, I'm not sold on that, because that seems so blatant. It's not like what we saw in Detroit where there were unmarked vans being, pulling up in the back in the middle of the night, unloading stuff. I mean, that to me seems very believable. Now, in more substantial legal news, Georgia is going to a recount, but it's more, the Secretary of State is billing it more as a full audit. But I've seen conflicting claims about how thorough of an audit it will be. Some people are saying that the language he's using is misleading. Because to me, what a full audit is, you go through and you recanvass all the ballots and make sure that every single one of them is valid and was processed correctly and is a legal vote. And so, because of that, the language he used, some people are very excited and think that, like, wow, well, as a result of this, Trump might be able to win Georgia because people think that there was a lot of fraud in Fulton County, which is Atlanta, which, again, would not surprise me if it were true. But there are people disputing whether or not the process that Georgia is undergoing at this point is going to find any of those kinds of irregularities, if it's going to be that thorough. And so I do not know yet. I've been looking around today, trying to see, because yesterday it was a lot of glee from people about this news, but today I'm seeing a little bit more skepticism. Obviously, though, if Trump was able to take the lead in Georgia because this recanvassing or audit or recount led to the invalidation of a bunch of ballots from Fulton County, then that would be pretty good news for the president. And it would certainly give him a bit more momentum to fight his other legal cases, because, it lifts some of the burden of the legal team, because now he doesn't have to fight a legal, he doesn't have to fight a legal battle in Georgia in order to win. He would have won outright at that point. Because from the beginning, I said that, for me to think that Trump had a good chance of winning through the courts, he would need to win Arizona and Georgia outright. Now, it looks like Arizona's pretty much lost. It's looked like that for a few days, but I didn't want to say it because I wasn't sure. I didn't want to go out there and make that claim and then, look like a jerk like Fox News, who called it on election night for some ungodly reason. Now, the other thing about Georgia is that you have these military ballots that we kept hearing about that, to my knowledge, have not come in yet, because those were supposed to be a big boost to Trump. Something like 8,900 military ballots, most of which would be for Trump, and that should close the gap between him and Biden in Georgia. And so that, coupled with the, recanvassing that might invalidate some illegal votes, people, think that he has a good shot in Georgia. But again, we don't have enough details on this. The reporting, it seems spotty to me. And the same is true, really, of the court cases. I don't feel like I have found anywhere that is really following all of these legal proceedings in every state. I see a big headline, from time to time, like today. We got the news that a judge in Pennsylvania ruled that Pennsylvania cannot count ballots that were, mail-in ballots that were delivered after 8 p.m. on Election Day, because that's what the state law says, and that the Secretary of State does not have the authority to extend that date. Now, this is important because Pennsylvania bent the law against the will of the legislature in many ways leading up to this election. And so this judge, in setting this sort of precedent, at least at this level, because obviously this is going to be appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, he's sort of setting the legal foundation for this same kind of argument to be applied in other situations. And so, for example, I think one of the things they did was lax signature verification or no signature verification, that sort of thing. If you have ballots that are affected by that because of the decision made by the Secretary of State, they potentially could be thrown out. And, so it's not just limited necessarily in the long run to these mail-in ballots that came in after Election Day. And so to me today, there does seem to be glimmers of hope for the president. I still maintain that his chances are not dead. This is an ongoing legal battle, and I do not know how it is going to end. I think that in the last couple of days, we're hearing some potentially good news for the president, but again, it's not enough yet to change the electoral map. There have been no decisions made, and nothing has happened yet that has flipped any new states into his column. He's still sitting at, last I checked, 232 electoral votes. That is 232 out of 538, and the balance of which, as of now, are in Biden's corner. Many of those states, of course, also pending legal challenge. But, if those legal challenges are unsuccessful, they will default back to Biden. One of the strategies, though, of the Trump administration that more and more people are talking about is that perhaps he doesn't intend on winning these court cases outright in time for the Electoral College to meet by December 14th, but rather to keep these things in the courts, even if he doesn't win, so that the election results cannot be certified. Because obviously, if these things are being challenged in court, these, the state governments, whoever it is, the election board, or the governor, or the state legislature, whoever it is that actually certifies the election results, they cannot do that and appoint electors if this is still being litigated in court. This was the problem that we had back in 2000, and in that case, the Supreme Court did not want there to be sort of a hung electoral college, and so what they essentially did was just rule and say that, no, Al Gore, you can't keep doing recounts. We're going to end this so that the Electoral College can meet and select a new president. But had they not done that, neither Bush nor Gore would have had 270 electoral votes, and that could be, a viable option for Trump. Because as I pointed out many, many times, if the Electoral College cannot pick a president, that goes to the House, and you have to win a majority of state delegations. Republicans control like 28 state delegations, and therefore you end up with President Trump a second term. And so even if he can't win, let's say, in court in time in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, if he can keep those in court and perhaps win them ultimately, but in time for the Electoral College, have those be unresolved, and those states probably won't be able to send electors to the Electoral College, and therefore neither Trump nor Biden will have a majority. That is what some people are talking about now. And again, this sounds crazy. I understand that. But may I also appeal and say, this is 2020. A lot of crazy things have happened. And at this point, I'm done counting Trump out, because I've done that enough, and saying, oh my gosh, he can't come back from this. Because again, just as the mainstream media did that a lot, I've done that a lot too, personally. Like on the economy stuff. As soon as Trump got elected, I thought, boy, he'll never win a second term because we'll be in a recession by 2020. There's no way that he can make it another 4 years on this geriatric business cycle. And, thanks in large part to the Fed, Trump actually did make it all the way here without a recession. And so he did have a shot at winning a second term as president. And, well, technically we had a recession, but not the kind of recession that I was expecting, a financial crisis. That has not happened. And I still think that the longer we go without that, and the more the Fed fights it, the more likely a crisis becomes, and the worse it will ultimately be. And so, do I think that Trump would make it through another 4 years without a financial crisis? No, I don't think that. But again, I've been wrong in the before, and I have to be humble and think, hey, if Trump is still trying to win this, I'm not going to say his odds are zero. I definitely see a path here. I see how Trump could win in the end and get a second term. I know that that's not going to make everybody happy, but that's just how I see it. So if you gain anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.